So good morning and welcome to the Mindfulness Tree Meditation community as we gather to continue with the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu's book, The Book of Joy. And we're going to begin with a practice that's found in the back of the book on page 315, depending on which version you're looking at, but you don't need to look at it. But it is fear and anger and sadness, an analytical meditation. And before I start that, I'm just going to read a little bit about what the Dalai Lama considers the analytical meditation. He says, now in my own practice, I engage mostly in analytical meditation. This is a form of mental investigation where you can see your thoughts as thoughts and learn not to be chained to them, not to identify with them. You come to recognize that your thoughts do not necessarily reflect the truth. In analytical meditation, you're constantly asking, what is reality? What is that self or that I that we hold so dear? And what is the focus of so much of our concern? In analytical meditation, we contemplate on impermanence and on the transient nature of our existence. And what's interesting about this is, we count breaths, we say, let the thoughts, go. But in analytical meditation, it's not thinking, because with thinking, we identify with the thought. And oftentimes with thoughts, it takes you to another and to another, sort of that daisy chain, and you go down that spiral. But with analytical meditation, it's staying with the issue. And what we're going to be looking now at fear, anger, and sadness. It trains the mind to be with the thought and to examine the thought. Is this true? Is this really about me? And so it's another way of doing meditation in the Tibetan tradition. And I did want to mention before we started that actually how I've started structuring my own meditation is I start out with a type of ritual in some ways, and then I might decide on a certain topic of Buddhist thought, and I'll spend time with that. And by what I'm doing is maybe it's the hindrances. I'm looking at the hindrances, or maybe the Brahma Viharas. What happens, it focuses my thought on that teaching so that I'm not going off into thoughts in many different directions. So I think, you're all pretty seasoned with meditating. And sometimes it's like, what do I do when I sit down? Do I try to make my mind a blank? What do I do? But there can be some very important work done in meditation that doesn't happen in regular everyday thinking. So I want you to sort of keep that in mind as we do this meditation. So I'm going to invite the bell. So we begin by first arriving and settling, being present for ourselves in this time of meditation and mental inquiry. So noticing your posture, allowing yourself to settle yet be awake. And so following the text, in the Tibetan tradition, the eyes don't necessarily need to close, but remain soft and perhaps gazing down. But if your practice, you close your eyes, please feel free to close your eyes. When the Dalai Lama meditates, his eyes remain open, but with his gaze pointed slightly downward, not looking at anything specifically. So if you'd like to try that practice today, please feel free. And just notice your body, that the body is breathing. And allowing the breath to be an anchor as we prepare for this practice. Now, I invite you to pick a topic or experience, either in the past or maybe recently, that's troubling you. And simply watch your thoughts and feelings arise. Because oftentimes when we think of that troubling situation, we move into a habitual way of viewing it. So simply watch your thoughts and feelings as they arise and recognize that they are temporary without judging or identifying with them. Some will be bright and pleasant, and some may be dark and stormy, but they all pass in time. And just allow them to float in your mind like clouds in the sky without judgment. So think about that topic or experience that's troubling you, even if your thoughts go back to the habitual way of viewing them. Now, ask yourself, is my thought true? Or do I just think it is true? How do I know for sure whether it's true? Does it help the situation? Or do I hold on to the way I see things, what it means to me? Is there a better way of thinking about it, a different way of seeing it or approaching the situation? And so now let's look at how we might analyze the three fundamental and often challenging negative human emotions that arise for all of us. Those being fear, anger, and sadness. So think of your situation. And if it happens to be fear, this analytic practice can help face the fear directly. You can think of the worst thing that could happen if your fear comes true. Could you or your loved one survive what might happen? Could it actually be beneficial for you or your loved one? What could you or they learn if this were to happen? How might this allow you or them to grow and deepen as a person. For example, perhaps you're worried about a member of your family who might be struggling with physical issues or mental issues, and you're afraid that something bad will come to pass. Ask yourself, is it true that this outcome will definitely happen? How do I know for sure? Does my worry help the situation? Is there a better way to approach the situation? How might this loved one learn from this experience? How might they grow and develop as a person? Notice that in analytic investigation, there might not be answers to the questions that arise for us. But when we turn and embrace what we fear, confront it, it loses its power to frighten us. We no longer need to fight it, but can instead work with it. When fear arises, it is simply fear. It is not us. Now, for anger, you can ask yourself, what is its use? Anger often involves some disappointment or frustrated expectation. Ask yourself, what was my expectation? Can I release it and accept what is or how others are rather than how I think they should be? Can I also acknowledge my part in the conflict? Can I see my part in contributing to the situation I'm angry about? Am I angry about what has been said? Can I see that these are just words that no longer exist, that, like all things, are impermanent and pass? When we hold on to them, we allow them to exist and they control us. Will my anger benefit anyone, including me? You could also reflect on how, if not contained, anger can lead to destructive action, from saying hurtful things to even violence that we later regret. Contemplate how anger can destroy relationships, alienate others, and rob you of your peace of mind. For sadness, we can reach out for comfort. Sadness is an emotion that expresses our need for one another, and our sorrows are halved when shared. We can also recognize that while sadness may last longer than other emotions, it too will pass. All life, the sadness and sorrow included, is impermanent and will end. There are always going to be highs and lows in any life, in any day, in any year. So much of our mood comes from what we focus on. We can choose to focus on what is going well for us and for the people in our life. By putting our attention on the things we are grateful for, we can shift how much time we spend in sadness and how quickly we return to joy. The emotions of fear, anger, and sadness arise. But we do have the ability to move toward gratitude. It doesn't make these emotions go away, but rather we can examine them in a way that we receive benefit from them. And just come back to the breath. And notice the inhale and the exhale. And notice the benefit of examining these emotions. And realize that through the breath, we stabilize the body, the central nervous system, and we also train the mind to be present, to focus. And perhaps as you focus on the breath, allow a smile to come to your lips. And notice how that feels in your body, in your mind. And in closing this time of meditation, I'm going to share with you a poem by Dana Faulds and it's called allow. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist, and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in. The wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. When loss rips off the doors of your heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth. In the choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes. So thank you for your practice and for your meditation.